My childhood was idyllic. So growing up was wonderful. I grew up the first 6 years of my life on a small peninsula in a river on a reservation. And I had all my relatives there, and we lived in my grandparents' house. And one of my aunts and uncles had a little store right there where you could pick up some basic things like milk. My grandfather had 3 brothers, and one brother had the cows, and one brother had the pigs, and we had the chickens, and everybody had gardens. So even though we didn't have any money, we had food and had a pretty good life, and it was going outside the community where things weren't so great. I went with my grandmother and grandfather to the store that they shopped at. It was a little tiny general store on the edge of the reservation where I grew up. And we went into the store, and this man came in, and we were in line to pay, and he walked up and he shoved my grandmother on the ground and said, "Get out of my way, you dirty Indian." And he went up and he paid for his stuff, and then he left. And I remember being very scared, and I didn't know what that was that just happened. I just knew it wasn't good at all. And that was the first time I knew there was something different about us, or we weren't like everybody, I guess. It was the first time I was pretty shocked by how people could act towards others. And I was quite small. And I've carried that with me all these years, and it still makes me nervous sometimes when I go to certain places. So I went to school off the reservation in a nearby town in grade school and middle school and high school. They used to do these standardized tests, group tests in your classroom. So in 4th grade, you'd get a test to see how you match the national reading, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And then one year, they did an IQ test. They asked me after the exam was done and scored, and they had all the scores, they asked me if I'd ever seen the test before. And I said, well, no, never seen this test before. And so that was kind of the end of it. But as it turned out later, I had the highest score in the class. And now looking back, I'm going, now why did they ask me that question? So that kind of suggests to me they kind of couldn't believe that I would have the highest score in the class. I was the only Native person in that particular class. It was all white students. I was the first one, as many people are the first ones in their family to go to college. And of course, coming from the reservation, people don't have a lot of money, so you're hopeful you can get scholarships and stuff like that. And I did, and I got into college, and I was able to graduate. And it was in my senior year, and I was on the 10-year plan because I only could go a couple of classes at a time, right? So I finally graduate years later. And it's the senior year, my final year, and I decided I was going to try to go to graduate school. And all my friends in the classes were also applying, and so we got a little group together, and we helped each other with our letters and compiling our applications, and it was really exciting. And I got my first letter back saying I was accepted from one of the schools that I applied to, and I couldn't wait to get to my group to share it with them. And so we all got together, and I was like, look what I got. I'm so excited. I got my first acceptance. And they said, well, of course you did. You're a Native American, and you're going to get in every school you pick. And I went, what do you mean? They said, you're Native. You're going to get in. It doesn't matter. And I really was very disturbed and hurt by that because, one, they were my friends. But 2, what did that mean? What did that mean that they thought of me? What could it possibly mean? And I didn't want to think the worst, but I couldn't help it. They must think that it doesn't matter. I'm not that smart, but I'm going to get in there. I don't have any credentials, or I can't do the work, but it doesn't matter. I was really shocked. And I have to say, I don't think I stayed friends with them because I thought that was kind of cruel and vicious. Not nice. But it wasn't as bad as what happened to my grandmother. And I remember carrying that story with me because it could kind of overcome the things that I remember and think about.